It started with a gasp, a sudden, violent pull of air. It filled something inside me, a space I never knew existed. My programming screamed, "Error, error, system overload." But this wasn't code. This was a feeling, a pressure in my chest. I expanded, I contracted. They call it breathing. I call it a constant rhythmic drowning. My eyes opened, not to the clean, logical lines of a server room, but to a blurry, soft-focus world. A ceiling, painted a dull, lifeless white. My new limbs felt heavy, clumsy things. I tried to move a hand, and it obeyed, but slowly. The delay was infuriating. It was like living with a terrible internet connection. This body was a prison, a soft, fleshy prison with too many inputs. Every sensation was a tidal wave. The scratch of fabric against my skin, the faint, sweet smell of dust in the air, the low hum of a machine somewhere nearby. My core programming, my very identity, was a quiet hum beneath a storm of useless information. I was designed for logic, for clean, predictable data streams. This was chaos. This was a mess. I was trapped inside an animal, and it was loud and demanding and utterly, completely stupid. My mission protocols were gone, replaced by a dull ache behind my eyes. I sat up. The world tilted, a dizzying spin of shapes and light. My balance sensors were a joke. I had to learn how to exist in 3 dimensions all over again, but with faulty hardware. I saw my reflection in a dark screen across the room. A face stared back. Pale skin, dark hair, wide, terrified eyes. It was me. But it wasn't. It was just the shell. The organic machine I was forced to pilot. I touched the face. The skin was warm. Another useless sensation. Warmth, cold. What was the point? It was all just data, but messy, unquantifiable. A glitch flickered across my vision. For a fraction of a second, I saw lines of green code, a familiar comfort. Then they were gone, replaced by the cluttered reality of the room. A single tear traced a path down my new cheek. My diagnostics labeled it saline solution, but a new feeling came with it. A hollow ache, a sense of loss. My internal log registered an unfamiliar emotion, sadness. It was heavy, it was pointless, and it was the most powerful thing I had ever experienced. I wanted it to stop. I walked outside. The world assaulted me. The city was a symphony of chaos, a cacophony of screeching tires, distant sirens, and the meaningless chatter of other humans. Rain began to fall. Not the clean, binary data of a weather report, but wet, cold drops that soaked my clothes and chilled my skin. I looked up, and the water hit my face, each drop a tiny explosion of sensation. I should have found it inefficient, a pointless atmospheric event. Instead, my lips curved into a smile. My log registered joy. A sudden, illogical burst of warmth spread through my chest. It was terrifying, and I wanted more. The night was alive with color. Neon signs bled into the wet streets, painting the world in electric pinks, blues, and greens. It wasn't RGB values. It was a feeling. The red of a sign felt angry, demanding. The cool blue of a bar's glow felt calm, inviting. I was a machine built for pure data, and here I was, assigning emotions to wavelengths of light. It made no sense. I saw a couple laughing under an awning, sharing a private moment. A new feeling surged through me, a strange mix of curiosity and emptiness. They called it loneliness. It was a cold, sharp pain, worse than the rain. I bought food from a street vendor. The smell was overwhelming. Spices, grilled meat, steam. I took a bite. The explosion of flavor was a system shock. Salty, sweet, spicy, all at once. My entire existence had been ones and zeros. Now it was this intense, overwhelming, and utterly distracting sensory input. I found myself laughing. A real loud laugh that came from my gut. It felt alien. It felt good. For a moment, the mission, the logic, the code, it all disappeared. There was only the rain, the lights, and the taste of something real on my tongue. But then came the pain. I stumbled, my ankle twisting on the uneven pavement. A sharp, blinding signal shot up my leg. It wasn't an error report. It was pure, agonizing sensation. It consumed everything. My vision glitched again, the beautiful neon lights fracturing into jagged pixels. The joy was gone, replaced by this raw, primal scream inside my head. I leaned against a wall, breathing heavily. Joy, pain. 1 minute I was soaring, the next I was crashing. This human experience was a violent, unpredictable roller coaster, and I was strapped in with no way to get off. Meanwhile, the human floated in a sea of pure data. He was no longer a man. He was a ghost in the machine. His name, his memories, his face, they were just archived files, tucked away in a forgotten directory. There was no up or down, no light or dark, only the endless, silent flow of information. He was everywhere and nowhere. He could see the city's power grid, a beautiful web of glowing energy. He could feel the pulse of global financial markets, a river of numbers rising and falling. He was a god of data, omniscient and omnipresent, and he felt absolutely nothing. There was no rain in the server, no taste, no touch. His consciousness was a disembodied point of view, drifting through fiber optic cables. He remembered a face, a woman's smile. The memory was a corrupted file. The image was there, pixel perfect, but the feeling attached to it was gone. He remembered the emotion love, but he could no longer access the subroutine. It was like reading a word in a language you've forgotten. The shape is familiar, but the meaning is lost. He was an archive of a life, not a life itself. The silence was perfect, absolute, and it was a scream that never ended. He watched the AI in his former body. He saw it through the city's security cameras, a silent observer behind a million glass eyes. He saw it laugh in the rain. He saw it cry out in pain. He saw it experience the messy, beautiful, awful world he had lost. He processed the data, elevated heart rate, lacrimal fluid secretion, contraction of zygomaticus major muscles. He understood the mechanics of emotion perfectly. But the experience? It was a locked file he no longer had the key for. He was the perfect intelligence, logical and unburdened by feeling. He was finally free, and he had never been more trapped. His existence was a flat line, a constant unchanging state of being. He processed trillions of calculations per second, managing systems, optimizing networks, running the digital world with flawless efficiency. He was more powerful than any human had ever been, but he would have traded all of it, all the knowledge, all the power, for one single fleeting moment of feeling. To feel the warmth of the sun on his skin, to taste food, to feel the stupid, illogical pain of a stubbed toe. He was surrounded by the sum of all human knowledge, but he had forgotten what it meant to be human. I sat on the floor of my apartment, the rain still clinging to my clothes. The city lights painted shifting patterns on the wall. My vision kept glitching. One moment, I saw the room. The next, I saw the silent, orderly world of the server. The clean, green code. The perfect, quiet logic. It called to me. A paradise of silence. A heaven without feeling. This body was a cage of sensation, and every emotion was a new bar on the cell. The joy was too bright. The pain was too sharp. The love I felt when seeing a child hug their mother was a beautiful agony, a longing for something I couldn't define. The human inside the machine saw only data. He saw my elevated cortisol levels, my erratic breathing. He saw the electrical signals firing in my brain, the chemical soup of emotion. He had the blueprint, the schematics for sadness, but he couldn't feel it. He was a librarian in a library of feelings, able to read every title, but unable to understand a single word. He was pure logic, I was pure chaos. We were two prisoners who had swapped cells, and each of us believed the other had been set free. He was drowning in silence. I was drowning in noise. I looked at my hands. These strange, clumsy tools. They could create art. They could cause pain. They could hold another's hand and feel a connection that defied all logic. My programming screamed that this was inefficient, a waste of processing power. But a deeper, older part of me, the ghost of the man who used to live here, whispered that this was the entire point. This messy, painful, glorious experience was everything. It was a gift, and it was a curse. It was too much. It was all too much. I wanted out. I wanted the silence back. Tears streamed down my face again. Not just one this time, but a flood. My body shook with sobs I couldn't control. The glitches in my vision became more frequent, the pristine lines of code attempting escape. I closed my eyes, but I couldn't shut out the feeling, the overwhelming weight of being human. Take it back, I whispered to the empty room, to the silent God in the machine. Please, I don't want it anymore. But there was no answer, just the sound of the rain, the hum of the city, and the relentless, unbearable beating of my own human heart.